So our third talk in this session is from Taiabul Haque from the University of Central Missouri, and he'll be presenting his work on privacy vulnerabilities in public digital service centers in Bangladesh. Taiabul, you're muted at the moment. And if you can share your screen if you've got slides to present.
So can you see my screen, Brian?
Yep, perfect.
Okay. All right, so welcome everyone to my presentation. I'm Taiabul. I'm an assistant professor at University of Central Missouri. The title of our work is Privacy Vulnerabilities in Public Digital Service Centers in Dhaka, Bangladesh. This is a joint ethnographic project in collaboration with Romael, Swapnil, Priyank, Mahdi, Shion, and Ishtiaqye. So almost all of us are from different North America universities, whereas Swapnil is from Jadavpur University, India. So at the very beginning, I want to talk about the content of my presentation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about digital service centers and privacy breach in the Global South. I'm going to highlight a few related works. I'm going to talk about our method, our major findings, and our implications of the findings. So recently, in many countries in the Global South, the government has been trying hard to move to the digital environment. And this, coupled with favorable small and medium enterprise environment, has created many one-stop centers for providing digital services. They offer services such as printing, photocopying, filling up online application forms, and photo editing. And the other major type of work happens there is many mobile transactions, including top-up and mobile payment system. Now, recently, there have been some newspaper headlines in many South Asian countries like India and Bangladesh about female users' phone numbers being stolen and sold in the market, and also some type of fraud going on during the pre-registration of the SIM of the mobile device. So this led to a growing interest in the privacy breaches in public places. Now, why is Global South important here? Because when we talk about Global South, there is some sort of informality going on in the economic aspect there between the customer and the shopkeepers. So we highlight this notion of informality, which is associated with the bazaar economy, which was reflected in earlier ICTD studies. There is a different notion of privacy. It's a more collective and hierarchical society. And privacy in public, to be more specific, is still understudied. Related works, when we talk about the related works, two works that have been conducted before by Ishtiaqye Ahmed and his colleagues, they highlighted mainly religious and political aspects of privacy in mobile related market in Bangladesh. Sambasivan and her colleagues had a celebrated paper in last year's Sky, which was about gender and digital abuse, and some of our findings are related to and I myself presented work related to oral ciphering techniques in last year's CSCW, where we showed the group dynamics. So privacy in a public setting are still sort of under-researched and underrepresented. There was one work in ICTD a few years ago about privacy in Ghana cyber cafes, which mostly talked about voyeuristic learning. And a couple of other works that showed that in Bangladesh, Western and local values actually coexist. And women, when they are in a social media, they do a balancing act between personal preferences and the social norms. And Payal Arora, in one of her recent works, has focused on in the importance of focusing on the local techno-oligarchs as opposed to the Western traditional periphery of privacy violation. So all these works sort of point to us that privacy is a growing concern in the Global South. But still, the economic aspect, especially for privacy in public, is sort of understudied. So we are well informed with a few works in regard to informal market here. Clifford Geertz, his work on bazaar economy, and then Vina's work on situated morality, which says that morality emerges out of ordinary life practice, a universalistic framework. And then Dennis Bromley has a lot of work on reputation and impression management, and which was sort of reflected in our findings. We did a 6-month-long ethnography in Dhaka, where we used convenience sampling and snowball sampling. Our ethnographer was born and raised in Dhaka, and we visited 2 types of DSC, one which we call computer service shop, and the other is flexi-load shop. As we can see in this picture, the left and the right pictures are computer service shop, much more larger shops which offered photocopying, printing, and other services, whereas flexi-load shops are small, tiny roadside booths, which are mainly for mobile transactions. We did semi-structured interviews during our ethnography with contextual inquiries, and we asked them questions about privacy concerns and prior experiences of breach. We investigated 19 DSCs in total, and we talked with 44 shopkeepers and 64 customers. And we did thematic analysis where 3 members of the team analyzed the data. And the main themes that were emerged were infrastructural limitation, local power politics, lack of knowledge, and insufficient protection mechanism. And more importantly, some informal market themes emerged from our findings, such as clientelization, reputation, and situated morality. So as for infrastructural limitation, we saw that none of the shops has any privacy policy. They have old, outdated technology, and they adhere to a paper-based bookkeeping. So the entire mobile top-up system was developed by a paper-based bookkeeping where a note was kept which recorded all the numbers, and after doing a successful top-up, those numbers were kind of highlighted or identified that this number has already been reloaded. Now, this book, which was mainly paper-based, it gained a lot of attention from external power politics. One participant told us that the local political leader who wants to make him disclose the phone numbers of all the residents in this locality. And at times, local goons also go to them and ask for local girls' numbers to harass them over phone. And then recently, some of the leaders also asked them for a list of those people who they do not want to be in the society. So those leaders harassed the shopkeepers to give them information about those people. So there was an exercise of local power politics. We saw a lack of knowledge from the customers and also from the shopkeepers. Customers are always in a hurry. We heard that some customers were spelling out loud his password for the shopkeeper to go to his account and print something. And we also saw that shopkeepers, they do a lot of content reuse. They use older visa forms to help new visa applicants to fill up their applications. And those contain all the sensitive information. As we can see here in the picture, this particular notebook is used for bookkeeping purposes for mobile top-up, and that was easily visible by us. And we could also see a few other sensitive documents. There were insufficient protection mechanism. From technical viewpoint, passwords were weak. There was no antivirus, and they only deleted contents if the customers explicitly asked them to do so. We saw one picture where they shared they asked every customer to scan their pen drive, memory card, and mobile device before they use it, but it appeared that the antivirus that they were using was pirated and outdated. And we also derived some informal market insights. One of them was clientelization. So repeated transactions happened between the customer and the shopkeepers. So as a result, they build a sort of, a very close relationship to each other. So as this quote say, one person on user who used to print CV a lot. So instead of bringing his CV every time, he kept a soft copy version of his CV inside the computer of the shopkeeper. So every time he needs a copy, he calls ahead the shopkeeper to get that printed, so that it's very convenient for him. And then we saw the older customers, they even don't have to go physically to the shops. They just make a phone call, and the shopkeeper basically top ups their phone. And one shopkeeper said that he offered this special service to a few older customers out of respect and friendship. So as a result of this clientelization, these digital service centers becomes a storehouse of a lot of contents. And as we saw before, since protection mechanisms are not good, those contents are easily breached or violated. We saw that those shopkeepers, they try to present a reputation management, especially for female customers for their privacy concern. One shopkeeper said that, whenever a female customer comes, he gives her the phone instead with the admin privilege for herself to input the number. And she also lets her to delete the confirmation message. And in the end, she puts a symbolic entry on his notebook so that no trace of the customer exists. So in this way, they try to help the female customer. Not all them are saying. One female customer reported that she was harassed over phone, and eventually she was able to identify the location from which the call had been coming, and she realized that it was coming from one of the neighboring shops, which she regularly visited. So she confronted the agent to finally stop harassing her. And we saw an instance of situated morality. Although many shopkeepers are religious and they try to protect their customers' privacy, but we saw a lot of practices that are not ethical. We saw assignment plagiarization, and those were sophisticated enough to bypass plagiarism detection software. We saw document forgery, and the price depends on the quality of the edit that they could make. And we also saw help for statement of purpose plagiarization for admission to foreign universities. So they think local law enforcement agency is not concerned about it, and the local police probably do not understand the digital stuff. So what are the implications of our finding? So we think that privacy in public in the global south, when we talk about it, we need to introduce and incorporate informal market perspectives and all the external factors such as local goon, power politics. And we saw that, you know, shopkeepers are also afraid of mob justice. If they do anything bad, they might be beaten by the mob. So that's also put an influence on their practices. We also saw they develop a personalized relationship, the shopkeepers and the clients with each other. So those could be used to leverage and you know, to let the shopkeepers know how to protect the data of their clients whom they consider as friends. We saw an alternative version of morality. So, and we argue that this should be considered both to analyze privacy, and also this should be considered that while doing these activities, it does not provide a negative external effect to the people who are not present. So from an ethical viewpoint, these are not the best ethical practices, but to analyze the privacy, we should consider them as a common practice that happens in these shops. And then we saw a few local strategies supporting privacy, like for female users, they bypass their usual bookkeeping procedure, and in turn, it might create problem for their business. What if like the women customer input a wrong number? You know, that might affect their business in the long run. So conclusion, we talked about privacy vulnerabilities in public places in Bangladesh. We demonstrated the local social, political, cultural, and infrastructural issues. We highlighted the reciprocal relationship between customers and employees through the lens of informal market, which offers a new analytical lens to analyze privacy in public in the global south. We also highlighted an alternative version of morality that emerges out of everyday economic practices. So if you have any question, you can ask me now, or also redirect to my email address. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Taiabul. That was wonderful. Okay, questions? Feel free to raise the hand or ask in the chat. Maybe I'll get us started while people kind of gather their thoughts. So I noted that there were these two different. I wasn't quite sure whether it was two different types of shops that you were looking at, or they were two physically different shops. But I was curious about any differences between those. Were there any differences in terms of the employees about? You know, I saw that you called out the flexi load specifically around that one harassment incident, but was there different thoughts from employees from these two different shops in terms of privacy or behaviors or things like that?
Right. So in terms of awareness, we did not find much difference between the shopkeepers, but they're different in the way they operate. So flexi-load shops are small, tiny booths, which are exclusively for mobile-related transactions. So the harassment that were associated with phone numbers or the problems associated with SIM registration, they were mainly like phone-centric. Whereas the computer service shops, they offer a wide range of services such as photocopying, printing, and then filling up visa application forms. So those were more geared towards, you know, document forgery or privacy violation in terms of people's document-related information. But in regard to awareness, we saw that both groups of shops lacked awareness, and neither of them had any privacy policy or you know, a modern updated technology for protecting users' privacy.
Great, thank you. So it looks like we've got a question from Carolyn. Carolyn, do you want to unmute and ask your question? I can also read it out.
Hello. Hi, sorry, Carolyn. My question was like, did you come across any kind of awareness raising or activities or campaigns from NGOs or from governments who explained like the risks of like, privacy risks when doing these kind of activities?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, like Bangladesh is currently in a phase where, it's trying to move towards the digital platform. So it's in the phase of establishing the infrastructure. So, privacy concerns are not at the fore of this discussion, or not one of the primary concerns. Yeah, we did not observe many such, awareness campaign, especially in regard to this digital service center privacy. And also the legal act that exists there that are also not very much clear about this privacy in public incidents. Yeah, so yeah, that is the next goal, and I think ICTD and HCI community could focus a lot here on awareness campaign, which and have been reflected in some of the prior works to raise awareness about different types of citizen involvement. Yeah, so this is a definitely area that should be addressed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Mustafa, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. So I have a question around gender, privacy, and situated power. Mm-hmm. My question is, are women aware of the potential risk that they have of their private data being breached? And if so, is there anything that they can do to prevent it? Like you've talked about instances where they've tried to stop it after the fact, mm-hmm. but I'm wondering, do they have any kind of situated power, or is this just a lack of knowledge up front and they're just not doing enough?
No. Yeah, they are totally aware of it. So that's how, clientelization comes into context, because a repeated transaction with the same shopkeeper, and if they do not face any harassment, that establishes their trust. But they do some sort of, informal mechanism. Many of the cases we saw that women do not themselves go to the top-up shops, like they send one of their male friends or associate to do it for them, because they know that immediately when they're going to leave the shop, then some people might go and ask for those numbers, and especially the political leaders. One of our court shows that, the local goons, they ask for those female users' numbers. So yeah, they are totally aware of it, and they try to do some ad hoc protection mechanisms. But as we say, some of them bypasses their regular business practices, which might be counterproductive for their bookkeeping purposes. Thank you.
Great. I think we have time for one more question. If there's any last question, or if not, we'll. Okay, let's go ahead and Joyijit.
I think we have.
I cut you off earlier. Yeah. Go ahead, Joyijit.
Hi. So my question was about, when you were talking about this, I thought about whether these shops are now emerging as new locuses of power, because they have so much information on people through the community, and your reflection on local politicians reaching out to them for various kinds of things, gundas, etc. Do you see this as changing the nature of neighborhoods and power relations?
Yes, that's a very good question, actually. Yeah, I definitely see that angle, although not all the shops reported the same thing. It depends on the specific locality. So we went through, mainly a few different neighborhoods, and one was predominantly the university hub area. So it depends on the specific location. So some of the local political leaders are trying to do it. And, if others starts following this trend, then definitely this is going to be a new power, a new emerging theme in the power dynamics, because they have a lot of information, especially regarding to, some of the people, as we mentioned, that if someone wants to categorically ask about a specific user, they could do it, because, they visit the same shop time and again. And they also told us that they don't like to go to the formal service centers for their phone related issues. They like their informal relationship with these local shopkeepers. So they also give them their phones, to fix some minor issues. So if those shopkeepers want to, either by pressure or by collaboration, want to do something with the local leaders, they could certainly do a lot of things, but it is not yet like a universal practice. Some regions, shopkeepers reported about it, others did not. But I can certainly see what you were pointing at, and this is a serious issue of concern.
Okay, great. Well, thanks very much.